What's going on, everyone? So the other day I showed you guys the pictures of what appears to be Jarred Vanderbilt, 2 inches taller than Rui Hachimura. We've gotten all the reports that Jarred Vanderbilt is like 6'10 now, that he's grown 2 inches. I know a lot of people are really skeptical, but like, why would they lie about that? Right? It's not like we're not going to see him. It's not like he's not going to be on the court playing. It's not like they're not doing physicals and measuring him and all that stuff, right? All of that is going to come to light. Maybe he's not 6'10, maybe he's like 6'9 or something like that, which would still be, I mean, he was listed as like 6'7, 6'8. So even if he did and is now 6'9, that's still, he grew an inch or two. So regardless, it looks like he's gotten bigger. He's definitely put on some muscle, which is nice. So even if he hasn't grown height-wise, he still has put on some reasonable muscle and size, which is going to be very helpful as he is one of the best defensive guys in the league. Like, the dude is ridiculous on the defensive end, and having the ability to stay with stronger guys, that would be massive. Because one of the big things that Jarred Vanderbilt does struggle in defensively is having to guard just bigger players, right? He is more agile, finesse, twitchier. He's good at guarding the twitchier wings and, guarding smaller guards and stuff like that, because he has the quickness and the foot speed and the length and the wingspan with like a 7'1" wingspan and all that stuff. So he has all the tools and intangibles to guard the smaller to his size type of players, which is good. You need a guy like that, right? A guy that can guard a Kevin Durant or Brandon Ingram one night, but the next night guard a Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and then the next night guard a Luka and Kyrie, and then the next night guard a Ja and Bane, and you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to have a guy that can just be that versatile on the defensive end. And let's assume he is 6'10", right? Now, the Lakers really need a center. And I've seen a lot of people say, if Jarred Vanderbilt is 6'10", then that we got our center. We got our backup center, right? We got our guy that can play the center position. And I kind of want to talk about yeses and nos in that regard, because I do think that there's some arguments you can make for maybe that switch, again, assuming he is 6'10". And then I think that there's many things that are a no, that it doesn't really, that's not something the Lakers should do. And we'll dive into that. But on the surface, basically all of the options that the Lakers appear to be looking for, right, is Christian Wood, Bismack Biyombo. Now, Bismack Biyombo's 6'8", so lengthwise, you could argue, okay, well, Jarred Vanderbilt, he's 6'10", right? So he could play the center spot. Like, what's the difference between him and Biz, right? Well, Biz also has like a ridiculous like 7'6" wingspan or something like that, and he's also like 260 pounds, 270 pounds, so he's got like some weight behind him. Christian Wood, yes, you can make that argument at that point, because Christian Wood's like 6'10", 6'11", and so I get that argument, but even then, Christian Wood is just a better offensive player, so it's kind of this mismatch for other big men. Yes, he's not going to really be able to guard them, but they're not really going to be able to guard him if he's playing the center position, because he's kind of this just offensive mismatch. But when you're talking about Jarred Vanderbilt, he's already a guy that's really good at being a help defender, being, blindside defender, and blocking shots and coming to help. I mean, there are countless videos of it. I've even shared a video here during the playoffs where he's chasing around Steph. Steph ends up getting baseline, he's cutting him off, and he passes the ball, and Jarred Vanderbilt just runs over and just defends the rim and blocks the shot of, I believe it's Kevon Looney, right? So he already has shown the ability to be a shot blocker, and if he's 6'10", with his size and athleticism and length and stuff, he could deter, right, at the rim and be just a solid defensive player. But the problem is that he doesn't have the mass and the size for the center position, right? He's not this bulky guy. Now, again, it looks like he's put on some muscle, so maybe he's put on some weight, but even then, you don't, like, The advantage that Jarred Vanderbilt has and what makes him so great is the ability for him to be such a twitchy player, right? A guy that has just so much agility and length and size. It's hard for people on the offensive side to get by him because he's just so quick and long and athletic, and it's a nightmare, right? And they have to try to figure that out. If he ends up losing that to try to play the center position, unless he really develops an offensive game, then you lose Jarred Vanderbilt's greatest attribute, which is the ability to guard basically anybody on the perimeter. I would personally rather have him stay as a small forward that is a 6'10 defensive monster and has the ability to switch on centers if need be in a moment, and then have him kind of be the backup center at this point because he's going to get bullied and it's probably not the best scenario, right? Like, that's not something that the Lakers should necessarily look at, right? Like, at least, again, Biz, he has the weight behind him to kind of match up and not get as much pushed around. Where Jarred Vanderbilt, he's probably getting pushed around a lot against centers. Now, you're probably not having him guard a, Jokic or Embiid or something like that. At those points, Anthony Davis or Jackson Hayes, somebody like that's probably going to do it. But I do think you can put him on I think he could guard, say the Bam Adebayos of the world. Like those type of centers where they're more finesse level centers rather than just big, bulky, back to the basket type centers. Like, I wouldn't want him guarding even like a Valanciunas or Steven Adams or something like that, because he's just going to get bullied. He's just going to get pushed around. Now, again, if he ends up getting switched, it's nice that he has the length to at least contest and defend and make things challenging. But to actually put him on like a Valanciunas, and I'm not even talking about a Jokic or Embiid, just simple Valanciunas, right? That's barbecue chicken for him. He's going to eat that, right? And so I do think, though, that you can put him on, I guess some backup centers, right? Like the scrawnier, smaller ones, maybe you could put him on, or like I said, like the Bam Adebayos of the world. You're playing the Warriors, you could probably maybe put him on like Kevon Looney or something like that and just let him use his length and his size to kind of smother in a pinch if you needed to. But I don't think him playing center is the best course of action for the Lakers. I think he needs to stick to what he is best at, being our perimeter defender. Because also, if you put him at center, then that means we lose our best perimeter defense, right? So now everybody else has to kind of try to pick up the slack on the perimeter when you have a guy that could just handle that for you, right? Like that's the beauty of Jarred Vanderbilt. Because if he's playing center, who's now guarding the best player on the other team, right? Like, are you going to have him defend that guy still? Then you might as well just put him at the 3, right? Like, what's the point, right? You might as well just, if you're going to play him at center, then he's going to have to guard a bigger player. Otherwise, who's going to guard that bigger player? And now you have a mismatch. And then it's like, well, you could have just played Jarred Vanderbilt at the 3 and life would have been good, right? Like, I would rather that. Now, if he can develop, again, some type of offensive game, could you put him on the lower block from time to time, right? Like, have him work on like an inside game, have him work on like a post game. Like, sure. On the offense side, kind of put him in the dunker spot, put him on the block, dump it down to him, let him use his size and length to kind of go to work. Like, if you wanted to do something like that, cool. Like, I'd get on board for that. But he's not the answer at center, right? Like, if he's having to play center, then that means the Lakers are in trouble. At least at the center position, right? Because, even with him at 6'10", you can make an argument Rui would probably be better at, 6'8" at the center position. Yes, he's not going to be able to defend the rim the way Vando does, but we've seen him hold his own against bigger, Karl Anthony Towns and just not get bullied and actually defend him. Jokic does not get bullied and actually defend him, right? Because he's just got a lower center of gravity. He's stronger, he's bigger, he's bulkier, he's beefier. So he's able to, defend those bigger, stockier players, where Jarred Vanderbilt, he's just going to get pushed around, right? Unless he just bulks up like ridiculously and puts on some weight. But then again, you're taking away all of what is so great about Jarred Vanderbilt, right? Like if you just put weight on him, now he just becomes Jackson Hayes again. So now you have two Jackson Hayes, right? Because Jackson Hayes is a great pick and roll defensive big. He's just a really good defensive big. He doesn't really have an offensive game, so you gotta like put him in spots. But he is a guy that you can dump it down to on the block, and he shoots like 70% on that little like hook floater shot that he does, right? Like something crazy like that. So again, do you really want to turn Jarred Vanderbilt into Jackson Hayes, or would you rather just have Jackson Hayes, have Anthony Davis, and then Jarred Vanderbilt, and you have two bigs that can switch out on the perimeter, two bigs that can, defend the pick and roll, and Jarred Vanderbilt's just being the hound on the perimeter? I'd rather have that. And him being 6'10", I think is even more of an advantage for him on the defensive end. Because now he's got the even more length and more height and more size. So I think that that's the better course of action. And also one last note for those that made it to the end of this video. I've seen a lot of people talk about like, well, I don't think he just grew overnight. No, he probably didn't. He was probably starting to grow during the playoffs. But when you're in the playoffs, they're not weighing him and measuring his height and putting him through all these physicals and stuff. Like, no, they're not, like none of that is happening during the playoffs. So he very likely started growing during the playoffs, and then they measured him and were like, dude, you grew 2 inches. Right? And again, I don't like, why would they lie about that? Why would they say something like that and then it's not true? Again, it's not like they're just going to hide Jarred Vanderbilt forever, right? We're going to see him on the court in like 2 months. So I just don't buy that like it didn't. But we'll see. I mean, maybe he didn't. I don't know. Time will tell. But if he is, again, I'd rather keep him out on the perimeter and allow him to have the ability to switch if need be, right? You're in a spot and you need, like, he has to switch. It's nice now, or like even the pick and roll, like when they do the small big pick and roll, like you could have Jarred Vanderbilt just switch that and not get bullied around, right? And be a better defensive guy against those types of sets. So anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Do you think, no, play him at center? However you feel.